What comes to your mind when you hear the words gravel wheels? Probably not Campagnolo, right? Well, that might change today. The company's new Levante carbon gravel wheels are looking good, and that's exactly what we're here to talk about. Now, we know you don't normally hear wheels getting compliments like, oh, they're so pretty, but these new Levante carbon gravel wheels are really serving looks. Let's get right into the specs. First up, there's more to it than just figures. If you only look at the specs, the Levantes are kind of average. The tubeless compatible carbon rims measure 25mm internally, 30.6mm externally, and 30mm in depth. All decent, but not exactly groundbreaking. The actual weight of the set is 1,477 grams with a Campagnolo-specific N3W free hub body and no tubeless valves. And while we're at it, let's also talk about the retail cost, shall we? The Levantes are going at US $1,900. And if we're being real, the price is kinda competitive given that it's a Campagnolo. But you know, it won't blow anyone's socks off. Now that we know the figures alone might not turn heads, but it's difficult to resist the Levante's lustrous looks, a stunning glossy finish that Campagnolo calls C-Lux. It's not just a beautiful clear coat, it actually looks like this right out of the mold. We think it's a genuinely elegant aesthetic that fits the Campagnolo name and mystique. Oh, and let's not forget how it comes perfectly complemented by classy metallic logos and subtle hub designs. Let's dive in deeper, shall we? The new Levante epitomizes Campagnolo technology that has been specifically modified for use in gravel biking. And let's not forget that Levante is the first Campagnolo wheel specifically made for gravel, integrating all the elements required to offer the greatest performance and elegance that are distinctive of Campagnolo wheels. It was designed, developed, and tested on the most difficult and demanding terrain around Cima Icar. Now, unlike most tubeless compatible rims, the Levantes don't rely on fussy tape at all. Cool, right? They're naturally airtight because the exterior wall is extremely solid, apart from the valve hole, of course. True, the manufacturing process is a pain if you're involving magnets, and it's definitely gonna require a lot of patience throughout the assembling process, but you know what? You don't have to deal with that, so screw it. What's more is that Campagnolo has also defied the hookless trend. Instead, it's opted for a smoother transition between the tire and rim, with a larger range of safe operating pressure and a longer list of tires that are compatible. Now, we know that some diehard Campagnolo fans will be bummed to see that the Levantes don't use the brand's tried and true 2-to-1 lacing configuration when it comes to the spoking pattern. But you know what? The tensions are more equally distributed between either side than typical because each rim has an offset spoke bed with 24 butted straight pull stainless steel spokes. Pretty impressive indeed. But here's the million-dollar question. Are the Levantes just a pretty face? Coming up, it's got the good stuff. Ever heard how the numbers alone don't give the whole story away? When it comes to this, the Levante wheels are no exception. While we're sure someone will point out a consumer direct competitor with identical or perhaps better specs at a much lower price, we'd argue the intangibles still matter, at least in this case. The Levante wheels have a ride that is on the stiffer side and feels more solid rather than feeling plush and compliant. Now, we know there's not much give when you hammer them over a particularly chunky bit of gravel road, but there's also the impression that you can do so with impunity. They're also particularly enjoyable to ride on paved surfaces since they lack the usual propensity to cross-wind instability and have an overall responsiveness that seems more akin to a light and stiff aero wheel than something made to play in the dirt. Whether or not that experience is a good thing depends on your priorities, what you desire, and possibly even your size. But it's worth noting, if you're specifically looking for a very smooth ride, something like the Sedan's No Tubes Grail CB7 or even just some foam inserts and lower tire pressure would be ideal for you. But if you're looking for razor-sharp handling, the Levantes is definitely the superior option. Next, here's how it's been reviewed. The new Campy gravel wheels ride just as we hoped a brand new premium carbon gravel wheel set would. When they are mounted on a bike with 38C Vittoria wheels, the narrow tread expanded to 42mm, which gave the bike more confidence. So lower tire pressure performed even better, providing a noticeable increase in grip and at the very least the appearance of lower rolling resistance. Yeah, the unbalanced low 30mm rim depth isn't really aerodynamic. However, when compared to the somewhat taller 35-40mm deep 21mm internal Shamel carbon all-road wheels, which weigh a real 1,634 grams, the new 30mm deep 25mm internal Levante weigh a real 1,478 grams. The tire widened by around 3mm by shedding weight, making that difference more apparent on the challenging hills. Oh, and it's also been claimed by one of the owners of the bike that the new Campagnolo Levante gravel wheels are the first gravel-specific wheel set that truly matches a car. Campagnolo wheels have historically a quality build, and while being tested, the wheels remain pleasingly round and true, without any of the initial pinging and popping that may occasionally be present in wheels that have not been adequately de-stressed. Spoke tension was also amazingly even. Given the exposed nipples, even if some tweaking was necessary, we reckon it'd be a simple process. Moving on, let's talk about the hubs. Again, they don't appear to be anything extraordinary, with their very standard-looking metal shells and average 10-degree engagement speed on the free hub. While some may find the tunable angular contact cup and comb bearings to be an unattractive throwback, we'd counter that by noting prior that experience has shown Campagnolo's bearings to be about as durable as they come. The bearings spin with the silkiness that many cartridge bearings lack. Even though that depends on a proper adjustment and semi-frequent, not often maintenance, the old mechanic in you might always prefer cup and comb bearings to cartridge bearings. The Levante free hub spins with hardly a whisper while you're coasting, which is a welcome change from the abundance of buzzy alternatives that are so common these days. The Levante free hub is so quiet that you suddenly realize what the outside sounds are, which is unusual for a lot of people because they still use Industry 9 hubs on the majority of their mountain bikes. However, the hubs do have one noticeable flaw. Campagnolo employs its own lock rings with external threading in place of commonly used internal threading rotor lockings, but it's not just for novelty. It also gives room for larger and tougher bearings inside the shell. The shallow two splines and threads make for slightly more difficult rotor installation and removal though. Now on to the shortcomings. Despite the Levante's apparent beauty and quality construction, there are still some question marks, particularly those related to the impact, durability, and Campagnolo's stated repair and replacement policy. If you're going to do any serious gravel riding, hits are a given. When Campagnolo was contacted for specific details on how the Levante rims were constructed to handle impact, their response wasn't as clear as we would have liked. Okay, so let's simply take Campagnolo's remarks at face value and believe that the Levantes are constructed around a suitably robust rim that can withstand some actual abuse. Even if that were the case, a relatively small volume tire, possibly high speeds and sharp-edged gravels are still a definite recipe for disaster. Most of the larger wheel makers now provide minor versions of a free lifetime repair and/or replacement policy, with the goal of providing purchasers with some peace of mind that their investment will last more than a season or two. But Campagnolo, it seems like the official policy is a bit of a wordy mess. If this reaches anyone working for Campagnolo, please take it up with your boss and make him consider being more upfront with the policy. The company could use some clarity and, well, generosity at this point. Finally, should you give them a go? Although the Campagnolo Levante wheels appear almost too gorgeous to risk scuffing and scratching on gravel, their performance particularly begs you to do just that. And while the Levantes are not the cheapest models available, they're not nearly as expensive as some might imagine given the Campagnolo brand. Simply put, these wheels are superb, and any rider who's concerned about durability and skips over them based solely on the numbers is doing himself a disservice, because you have to consider the pure excellence it offers when it comes to typically hitting components like bearings. In other words, while the Levantes may be too attractive to ride, they are also too good to pass up. Surely scars add character. However, they're far too fantastic to be without Campagnolo's competitive post-purchase support. We can only hope that the issue is resolved as quickly as possible. That is a wrap for this video. What did you think of the new Hot Wheels in town? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We'll see you in the next one.